so that you can use it very efficiently. So this is 3D viewport. On the left it's toolbar, on the bottom it's called content browser, where you have to create your assets, any object that are being used or anything that is being used in Unreal Engine in the scene or can be kept inside the project itself, which you can use it later, and the place where you can store them is called as content browser, which I will be explaining in depth later on. And on the right there is a world outliner, and below our world outliner there is detail panel. So anything you select, anything, you will get lots of property to scale, rotate, manipulate, change material, that sorts of things, like switch off, cast shadow and all those things. And this one is title bar, and these one are menu bars. So I'm going to start from the 3D view, how you can take the most advantage of it. To start with the 3D view, what we'll do is we'll go here in this create place actors. You have to go here in these shapes and then bring a cube in the scene by just clicking here on the cube and then dragging into the viewport by left click. So I will again go ahead and click on sphere and then left click and then drag and drop it on the floor. And then I will bring a cylinder, and then again I will bring a cone, and then I will leave plane as it is because we already have a box as a plane or floor. So now we have these 4 objects in the scene. So let's start to learn or understand the 3D navigation with the help of these 4 objects in the scene. So first thing is, when we click in any object with left click, we can select it and then we can move it with it on Y, X or Z direction, and we can select any of these and you can move it. And to move it, the shortcut for moving it is W. And if you want to rotate anything, we have to click E, and then we can rotate any object on any direction like X, Y and Z. Scale any object, what you have to do is you have to press R, and when you press R you can scale any object into any direction. So you can just scale it on Y, X, Z, and then when you press W you can move a scale. You press E to rotate, you can press R to scale. If you click, like if you bring your mouse into the center point, then you can scale it globally, like equally in all the axes X, Y, Z. Or if you want to scale it in a specific, use any axis in the manipulator to scale in that specific axis. So if you press Ctrl Z, then it will undo the changes. And you can also find the tool for changing from move to rotate to a scale in the viewport itself, and it's available here. So when you click here, then the toolbar for selection is activated. When you click on here, the toolbar for rotation is selected, and this is a scale. So this is select, rotate and the scale. So you can use these 3 tools, or you can use shortcut, that is W, E and R. Okay, so and this one is to just select. So it will just select object, and after that you cannot rotate, move or scale the object, it will just select. So if you want the feature that you can only select and by mistake you don't move or rotate or scale any object, then you have to select this tool. And if you want to scale or rotate or move any object, you can use any of these 3 based on your requirement. So this tool is local versus when you use move tool, and then when you click this a local, and when you click on this like this one, and now if you click this is local, like move. So this tool is for movement of the object or rotation of the object or scale of the object into local axis or in the world axis. So whenever you will have to scale any object, it will always scale it in the local only. You cannot surpass that. Like whenever you are using scale tool, you will only be able to scale it in the local along the axis, but movement and rotation can be on local or on world axis. So this one is for just selection. Okay, so movement can be on local or a world axis, but a scale has to be, or a scale will always be on the local axis. So that is a very good point to remember, that whenever you are scaling object, it will always scale in local on a specific axis, but movement and rotation can be done on world axis or on the local axis. And this toolbar, this one is a snapping objects, surface snapping. So you can activate these and then you can select these, and when you bring this object near any object, it will start a snap. You see, it's a snap. So this tool is absolutely not a very useful tool, but you may find some reason to use it, but it's not that useful. I haven't used in any architectural project yet, but this tool is very important. And this tool, when it's activated, like it's deactivated now, and when it's clicked, it's activated. So when it's activated, whenever you move any object, it will always snap on the units. Like it will always move with a snapped units, like 10 10 10 increment. This is 10, so the movement will always be restricted to 10 units in any axis or any direction you are moving. And this one is very helpful when we are snapping objects and making use of modular objects to make a bigger thing. Like when you have a piece of wall and you want to snap it and then make a very longer wall, then you can use this grid snap very easily and it will be helpful. But sometimes when you want to move any object precisely, like you don't want to snap it, you want to move it very in less amount, like less than 10 units, like you want to move 1 unit, or you want to move it the object independently, it should not be constrained, then you'll have to switch off this, and after this you can move it in any position you want, and it will not be restricted to the unit being snapped on the units. So it is very useful. So you should always be aware that you have a facility to activate it, you have the facility to switch on the snap on the movement, and the same thing goes for the rotation and the scale. And you can also change the unit, like how many unit it will snap. Like 1.5 default is 10, you can increase it to 500 and then 1000, 5000, 10,000, and same also goes for the rotation, and same also goes for the scale. So generally the way I prefer to work, or majority of the time I use my 3D Viewport, I always keep this movement and scale snap off, but I always keep my rotation snap on, so that whenever I am rotating it, or rotating an object, it will always snap or rotate at the 10 per 10 units incrementally. So it's very helpful. So always it's very helpful to keep the rotation snap on, but it will always be helpful if you keep the movement and scale snap off. So now when we zoom in and zoom out or do something with the scroll mouse, like after this scale, let's understand how we can navigate in the viewport. So whenever you press Alt and left mouse button, you can rotate the viewport like this. So so again, Alt plus left mouse button, click, and then move the mouse in the direction you want to rotate the viewport. When you scroll in or scroll out, you zoom in into the viewport or zoom out. So you want to zoom in any object, you can use mouse scroll and then you can zoom in and zoom out. And whenever you select a object and press F, then the viewport will be zoomed on the selected object. And after the zoom, you can press Alt and left mouse button again, and then it will rotate the viewport on that object that has been selected and then zoomed in. The viewport will be like the rotation will be around that object. So when we are like this, and when we click Alt and left mouse button and then drag, it will rotate this whole viewport. But if we select a object, press F to zoom selected, then after that, when we click Alt and then left click, it will rotate the viewport along that object, which is very handy to inspect any object and you want to see any object closely in close-up from different direction or views, then you can use this technique. It is very handy. Just select object, press F and then zoom. And then the next thing is, when you right mouse click, and then you can move the mouse and then it will rotate the view according to that. Like when you can just right click and then move the mouse right, or move the mouse left, move the mouse up, or move the mouse down. This is also very handy. Suppose if you select one object, press F, and then you want to look right, then you have to right click mouse and then move the mouse towards right, or you can right click, keep right clicked on, and then you can move the mouse left to look left, and then you can move the mouse up to look up, or you can move the mouse down to look down. So let's start from the beginning. For once again, Alt plus left click to rotate the view. Select an object, press F to zoom selected, and then Alt and then left click to rotate around that object. Scroll the mouse in to zoom in, and scroll the mouse out to zoom out, and you can click right click and then move the mouse right to look right, move the mouse left to move left, like look left, and then you can move the mouse up to look up, and then move the mouse down to look down. So now let's see how we can group object, like two object make one group. So we select one object, and before that, if we press shift, then we can add to the selection. So suppose, and when we press escape, then it's deselect all. So if you have selected something and you press escape, then deselected, everything will be deselected. No matter what is selected, it will deselect. So whenever you select something and then you press escape, it will deselect it. So to group two objects into one, you have to select two objects, and to select two objects, we have to first click one object and then press shift and then click on the other object. And you want to add one more, then keep the shift pressed and then click on the third object. So now you can see we have already selected three objects, and when we press control and then when we press on any object, it will add to the selection. But if we still press control and click on the selected object, any of the selected object already, then it will deselect. So pressing control and then selecting an object will add or subtract from the selection. And when like this the object has been selected, and if I press shift, and then I can only add, I cannot remove any object. It will always either add or it will keep it as it is. But when we press control, we can add to the selection or we can remove or subtract from the selection. So you have to understand that. So shift will add and control will add or subtract from the select. Now to group these three objects, we have to press Control G to group the object. You see, now whenever we select any object, we can move, rotate or scale all the objects together. Okay, so we can make group of object by selecting different object and just press Control G to group. And when we press Control Shift and then G, then the group will be open temporarily. Group is there, but it's open, and you can now individually select an object and move it according to your requirement. And when you press again Control Shift G, then the group will be closed, and now all the objects will be moved or scaled together. So remember that Control Shift G to open the group and manipulate the object individually, and you want to manipulate the object as a whole, as a group, then again you have to press Control Shift and G, and then the group will be closed. Suppose you want to explode or dissolve the group. You don't want this group to be there. So you have to select a group which you want to dissolve, and then you have to press Shift plus G. Then the group will be exploded, like it will be no more there. So now if you again want to make group, you have to make group again by selecting those objects and press Control G to group the object and Shift G to explode the group. So group information will be lost forever. You have to make the group again if you want, but Control Shift and G will open the group. So let's first Control Shift G and then Control G to make the group, and then Control Shift G to open the group, move the object independently, again Control Shift G to close the group, and Shift G to explode the group, and it will be lost. And again you want to make group, you have to just press Control G to make the group. So now I will just press Shift G to explode the group. Now suppose you want to find the object into the content browser. For that, you have to press Control B. Control B means select the object in content browser. So the moment I select any object, press Control B, and once one object is selected and we press Control B, that means it will find the object located in the content browser. So if we select this object, press Control B, then it will find it here. If we select this